For people who haven't heard of Flow or don't know what it is, just explain how it works for people.
It's an AI system that basically what we're doing is replicating a farm manager if he or she could sit on the roof of their shed and only move the backing gate exactly when it needed to be moved. So we replicate that by using some cameras, some clever AI software in the back end, then we wire into existing backing gates to move that gate as and when the farmer thinks it should be moved.
Now, tell me though, why Farmlands? Why did you sort of look at Farmlands and go, oh yeah, that might be a good marriage, if you like?
Yeah, I guess I've spent my life growing up in New Zealand, surfing, taking advantage of parts of the country that aren't accessible to everyone. And it'd be amazing what a dozen beers buy you for a farmer to get access to his farm, to drive across it to get to a beach that there's no road to.
Our next guest is Richard Appleby, who is the CEO of Livestock Visibility Solutions. Now, he is a dairy farmer, also interestingly received a Prime Minister's scholarship to travel as a dairy tech specialist to developing countries. The aim was to understand and improve production for small dairy holders in order to help improve their livelihoods through agriculture. And while doing that, he realised a lot of things could actually be improved here back home, especially if they were measured properly. And he started, where all good dairy begins, at the backing gate, enter the flow system. And he joins us now to talk about it. Richard, it's great to have you on. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having us.
No worries. Was that kind of accurate enough sort of précis of how this is all kind of unfolded in a nutshell, at least?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's reality is often messier than we'd like to have it on a podcast, but that's close enough to the reality.
Good stuff. So it's not a bad starting point. Firstly,
No,
though,
no.
for people who haven't heard of Flow or don't know what it is, it's an AI system, effectively, isn't it? Just explain how it works for people.
Yeah, so it's an AI system that basically what we're doing is replicating a farm manager if he or she could sit on the roof of their shed and only move the backing gate exactly when it needed to be moved. So we replicate that by using some cameras, some clever AI software in the back end, then we wire into existing backing gates to move that gate as and when the farmer thinks it should be moved, based on some predetermined criteria that we work through the farmer with.
Right. So
So
you go in, you sort of assess what they've got going on there, and you tailor it accordingly, effectively.
yeah, correct. Yeah. It's very, very configurable. Probably a little bit too configurable, but the farmers are responsible for their cattle. They care deeply how it is, and so every farmer wants them treated in a way that's consistent with their ethics and morals, and we just try and replicate that.
Excellent. So you've obviously got a dairy background, Richard.
Yes, yeah. Born and raised on a dairy farm, then spent 10 years milking cows. Before life decided I should do something else, I injured my back pretty badly and had to do something else with my life. And so that's how I kind of ended up where I am now.
Interesting. What did you? I mean, that's quite the pivot, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty typical for dairy farmers, actually. Not necessarily to end up in technology, but injuries take them out most of the time. If you're a dairy farmer, you're generally a dairy farmer.
Yeah.
And the reason you exit is for injuries or stuff like that. Life normally tells you to stop milking cows.
So did you study this sort of stuff, or how'd you get into the whole, I guess, AI space and that?
Well, it's interesting. So I went back to uni and got a further education because I needed to do something. And I had a friend who was milking cows, and he just rung me to have a chat about staffing and backing gates and consistency and lameness and all that sort of stuff. And he was just like, well, it seems like a problem that should be solved but isn't. Why don't we look at solving it? And so that's kind of what we did. I don't have any background in technology at all. My background was like I say, is dairy farming, but the technology exists now when you can go out there and you can figure out what needs to be done, and then you can find people that can help you build it. And that's kind of what we did. We're pretty old as far as the kind of technology we're using goes. It was very, very new when we started. So we use computer vision and machine learning to run these backing gates. So that's it's AI, but not AI. And so when we went and started it, we just found some guys that were really interested in what we're doing, really interested in cows and software, and that's how we got started.
Interesting. And when was this?
Oh, 2020.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
right in the heart of COVID.
Yeah, right. You obviously found the right people to sort of put together what you guys were thinking.
Yeah, we've been very, very lucky in the staff and customers and farmers that we've had in this business. Like we literally couldn't have done it without the support of farmers who've seen a really gnarly problem that nobody else is solving, and then just keep asking us to step up and solve it for them.
So, how many systems are out there in I don't know, New Zealand, further afield? Tell me.
So we're only in New Zealand at the moment, but we've got our first. Well, we've got some inquiries out of Australia, and we look like we'll probably be in there by the end of the year. But we're across New Zealand now, from as far south as Gore right up to sort of North Waikato. I think we just cracked 40 units,
Nice.
which we've had phenomenal growth since we went commercial, sort of 18 months, 2 years ago. We've 300% increase in the farms we've had under management in that time.
And what's the feedback been like from those 40 odd farms that have it?
Well, we haven't lost a customer yet, touch wood. Every single every single one of our farmers have re-signed up for another term with us, which is really quite gratifying. Most of the feedback seems to be that lameness is down, which they're really happy about. They don't have to train staff quite as often, or they don't have to continue like monitoring it. They can just set it and forget it, and they just really love the consistency. Cows really love consistency. They like doing the same things in the same way, and that's the bit that the backing gate does that humans can't, simply because there's different people milking cows. There's, like the weather changes, everything changes, but the backing gate just does what it's meant to do.
Interesting. So the problems that you set out to solve initially are those are being rectified, so to speak. The sort of like hypothesis and outcome sort of aligned.
Wow, so that's funny. So normal with technology, we set out to solve milking speed, but it turns out the farmers want consistency over milking speed. But if you get consistency, you increase the speed anyway. But they're not. It seems like they're not really buying it. Like the numbers have to stack up, right? These guys know what they're talking about, but the consistency and the lack of training is what they're really looking for. And then on the outcome of that, they get faster milkings. We save about, on average, our farmers save an hour a day, so half hour to 40 minutes per milking per day, which when you're talking about, that's a significant number of hours across a year. And then they've got the lameness reduction, but it's the consistency seems to be key. Do it the same way, every day. The cows learn really quickly. They're happier, the staff are happier, and that seems to be what drags everything through.
Right. So it's one of those things where it's like it's almost they can put that to the back of their mind now because that part of the day, the operation, whatever, that's being taken care of.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So we've got a farmer in. Well, we've got lots of farmers that do this, but one that's told us about it. They start their guys a half hour later in the morning now. That's how
Wow.
much time they're saving. So their staff are happier. Staff turnover's gone down simply because they just don't have to worry about it. A
That's
half hour for these guys is a significant. What's a significant sleep in? If you're getting up at 3:30 to get cows in, 4 o'clock feels like a world of difference.
Mate, I know that from first-hand experience. I used to do stupid o'clock get-ups as well. It was nothing to do with milking cows, but it was in media. But if you
Yeah.
can get that extra half hour, honestly, yeah, that is a game changer. That's for sure. Just speaking of it paying for itself, so I think you've said something like around 11 months in terms of reduced staff, energy, and vet costs. Is that so? You obviously just have sort of calculated that out across the board, and that's kind of what you've come up with. So basically, within a year of purchasing it, it's kind of paid for itself.
Well, normally I think it's on average 6 months now.
Oh
And
wow!
so there's a whole bunch of calculations we go into, but we only track three things for these farmers. Well, the farmers track them for us, right? So we track milking time, we track the farmer tracks reduction in lameness, and the farmer tracks power reduction. And we haven't done this across all of our farmers. We took a representative sample. We tracked their milking times pre us, we tracked it after us, and then we tracked this against a farm where we'd installed everything but just didn't turn anything on. And so we tracked everything back against that, and that's how we know that we're saving them the time. And the lameness is self-reported, and so they're telling us, on average, we reduce this amount of lame cows, which is about 15 to 20%. And these are averages, right? So your mileage may vary. And we know from Dairy NZ that the average lame cow costs somewhere between $350 and $750 a year through reduced milking production, reduced fertility, and a whole bunch of other little things. And so that's how we come up with this. And that just seems to be what rolls out the back end.
Excellent. Okay, right. Well, that makes perfect sense. So, is there anything else comparable out there in the market that you're competing with?
No, this is the only product in the world that exists doing this. So
Brilliant.
there's a few little things that companies have tried to do the same thing, but they're all reliant on nothing changing in the cow shed, and that's just not the case, right? So the minute you've got humans, the minute you've got livestock, things vary, and so our system, where we really come into our own, is it's reactive to what's happening with the cows and the cow shed. And so if something changes and the density doesn't drop and the gate doesn't move, like nothing changes. So if the cows aren't leaving the yard, then the density is held correctly. If we had a farmer not that long ago, they had a breakdown in the cow shed and forgot to turn the system on, and it held density for 45 minutes while they figured out the breakdown. So the cows were never put under pressure. They were just sort of chilling in the yard, waiting for things to come back to the way it should normally be.
Yeah, right. So happy stock, happy farmers, happy workers, better production, time saved. What's not to like, I suppose.
Well, that's what we think. Yeah, that seems to be what the customers are telling us, or that's the guys that are buying the system. That's what they're after.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what they're getting by the sounds of things, which is very cool. Obviously now though, I know you've got the system seems to be working really well, but the pace of change when it comes to technology and this, particularly the AI space, further development. What else are you sort of looking at in regards to the flow system?
So the flow system, so it's interesting that you talk about pace of development and pace of change. So a bit of a problem within the industry wider context is that we get a lot of orphaned hardware in dairy farming. And so by what I mean by orphaned hardware is companies will build stuff, that's great, and then the new product hardware releases and they stop supporting the old hardware. And so part of what we do is we give these farmers a lifetime warranty that if you're with us, then your hardware never wears out and never gets old. We replace it at our cost if it needs to be replaced. And that seems to be working really well. But the other advantage is we quite like, so Flow is a very mature product at this stage. And we're doing little things, farmers will come and say, hey, it'd be really cool if it did this thing. Like we just released an update where the backing gate goes backwards before it comes forwards, because that really helps the cows learn what they're doing. Like cows really like triggers to move forward. But the cool thing is the farmers now asking us to solve other problems. They're like, oh, I've got this problem, could you solve it? I've got this problem, could you solve it? And so at the moment we're growing, and that's really cool. But we're a bit starved for capital to really grow properly, because we're quite lightly funded for a tech company and what's doing what we're doing. And so we're always looking for cash from the right kinds of investors. But at the moment, we're just releasing our commercial body condition scoring product, which is a bit of a crowded market. But our farmers are like, well, we've already invested in hardware. What else can you sell us that integrates into the hardware you've already got? And we're working on a few other little animal health products as well, basically for the same reason. So we go and have a chat to farmers, and the farmers are like, well, I've got this problem, could you solve it? And I've got this problem, could you solve it? And we're like, well, yeah, we could. And then we go back to a farmer reference group we've got, and we ask them if they've got the same problem. If they say yes, they're like, oh, well, we could solve it, it costs this, would you pay that? And they say, yeah, well, they normally say, no, that's too expensive. And then we have an argument about what the price is and come back from there.
Yeah.
Because that's our entire business model, has been asking farmers what they want and then building it at a cost that they're willing to pay.
Yeah.
And that seems to be really working for us.
Yeah, that's a pretty sensible way to go about things, Yeah, okay, so there's a few things in the pipeline, and presumably then it's all sort of an integrated system too.
It is
for
very
farmers.
much.
Yeah, which makes it, look, there's so much out there that you don't want it, you got like 20 different things and all these different apps and, all that sort of stuff. It's like if you can kind of centralize things as much as possible, that's what people are after, I think.
Yeah, if I could get $1 for every time a farmer has told me he doesn't want another dashboard, I'd be a wealthy man. So yeah, it's an interesting inflection point for the industry. So both technology and dairy, everyone's got their own dashboard. Everyone's trying to keep everything separate. We're trying to just talk to these guys. Like, I don't need to do everything. I don't need to build everything. But if the farmer wants a thing, then I don't see why us as an industry shouldn't be doing that. I'm talking tech industry here, right? Like I'm talking, we can, yeah. That's my personal opinion anyway. Obviously, different people have different views on it. And we're a tiny company by most standards, so my views don't really matter in the scheme of things to most of these big companies. They seem to matter to farmers, and that's all I really care about.
Well, exactly, and that's your clientele. That's probably the bigger thing that you got to be, looking
Yeah,
after. That's good.
yeah.
I mean, that's a win-win at the end of the day. So, tell me about the fact that you got that PM scholarship and you went over. And what was that? What were you doing? What was Give us that story.
Oh, so I was looking for my next career, and I really like cows and I really like farming, but I just can't do that anymore, right? I just can't. My body won't put up with it. And so I was at Lincoln University studying a master's degree of agribusiness management, and one of my lecturers was just like, well, these prime minister scholarships are severely under chased. Nobody's going for these scholarships, right? And so I highly recommend that people just look at them. And they're for a wide range of things. Normally with countries that New Zealand is trying to sell product to, like we're trying to build these relationships. Anyway, so I got introduced to a prime minister scholarship, and then I got introduced to a company out of Lincoln that was working on a Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade project in Peru. And the all of the stars sort of aligned, and it was an opportunity to leave New Zealand and go and see how people farm in other parts of the world. And so that was really cool. So I went to Peru, with like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about how it's going to change the world. And you get there, and these guys are milking very few cows. But it's interesting because the first thing they do when you increase their milk production is send their kids to university or high school or whatever. And so you're working in these really, really driven individuals in this challenging environment. Think Mackenzie country, but higher. Like I was working at 3,500 meters above sea level, and you're helping like you're helping these guys improve milk yield. You're talking about how don't put them away overnight, right? So they put them out on the grass during the day, and then they'd bring them into housing overnight, and they wouldn't get fed or they wouldn't get water. And you're like, okay, so this is how we do it in New Zealand. This is what this looks like, and this is the kind of experience you can get out of that. And you're talking about to a New Zealand farmer what might seem like quite small changes, but they're driving massive differences in these communities that you're working in. It was really, really gratifying work, if you can put up with the altitude.
Yeah,
So
I
I think one of the farmers I was working was 5,000 meters above sea level.
it's a long
Yeah,
way up, buddy.
yeah, it's higher than Mount Cook. He's milking cows higher than Mount Cook.
That's crazy. What was that like adjusting? That would have been all sorts of different sort of physical symptoms, I imagine.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
But I was quite lucky. The company I was working with they'd been working there for a while, and so they were quite good about you've got to acclimatise. So I went to about 1,500 meters above sea level for like a week or two, and then I went up to altitude. And if you take it easy, it's not too bad. But it's interesting coming back. You feel like you're swimming. So you come back to sea level because you do that really quickly, right? And you feel like you're swimming. The air's so thick. It's
Wow.
phenomenal.
That's crazy. That's
Mm.
insane. Yeah, yeah. But obviously, I mean, what I said at the start is, that one thing sort of led to another. Is it true that your sort of experience there kind of got you thinking about where you'd go from that
Oh,
point when you got
a
back,
hu-
or?
100%, right? It's really quite easy if you've been in an industry, and you'll know this yourself, that to not see the necessity for change or not to see where you can change something.
Mm.
And so I'm sitting in uh, a place called Cusco, which is quite famous for a tourist point, and I'm thinking, well, we did quite for a New Zealand farmer, we did quite small changes for these guys, right? We gave these cows access to water, and they had an outsized return. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. And so then I come back to New Zealand. I've got a farmer friend rung me, and I'm like, okay, well, what are small changes we could make here that might see outsized results, right? And so managing the backing gate properly, which is where we started, is quite a small change in the scheme of things, right? It's a difficult, complex system to run, but it's a small change. And so we're starting to see these outsized changes on these guys' milking systems from one small change. And so I think what Peru and the scholarship showed me is that it doesn't have to be ginormous change to make a world of difference, right? And so a 5% change can have a better than 5% return on that investment.
It's
And
a
that's,
good, yeah,
yeah. So that's very much what we're seeing with the backing gate.
totally makes sense. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Now, you mentioned, of course, that you're always, obviously, you're a tech business. You need capital.
Yep.
Who are you looking for? I mean, have you got anything like a raise coming up or anything, or do you just sort of go around sort of solicit business here and there? How do you sort of go about that? What are you looking for?
Well, we're looking for agriculture is a long-term game, right? farmers are making decisions today that they won't see a return for 3 years, and that's a short-term decision cycle. So what we're looking for is we're looking for investment partners that understand that and understand that, yep, while technology moves quickly, farmers make decisions based on longer production cycles, and we're just looking for investors. So we're just in the early stages of what that might look for. We've got a couple of mature products now, and so we're in a really good position with paying customers and increasing to really cement ourselves into New Zealand's environment. And so it's a bit ad hoc, but that's kind of where we're at. It's like, okay, cool. We probably need to raise money to really get ourselves in the market to really help more farmers and more cows, and we're just looking for the right investor to do that.
Yeah, fair enough too. And you'll be at field days, I imagine.
No, not at field days this year. I went to South Island field days, so I went to
Yes.
Waimumu this year.
Yeah, I
And
was
so
there. Yeah.
so the budget only extends so far, which is
Yeah,
part of the
no.
reason we're looking to raise capital, right? Like, it'd be great to be at Mystery Creek, and Waimumu, and there's a few other places that farmers have asked us to go to, and we just got to be really careful where we spend our money, whether it's on marketing or whether it's on product development and keeping the customers we've got happy and thriving.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense. Yeah, and you don't want to stretch yourself, too thin either. So, it's exciting times, though. I mean, obviously, in this space, people are looking for these solutions, and you've got one there, and you're working on other things as well. So, where can people find out more info then about what you've got to offer?
So the best place to find out what to offer is just to email us directly, info@lvs.nz. The website is pretty good, which is www.lvs.nz. But again, just ring us and have a chat. We've got a pretty good team. They know what they're talking about. Then we can send more information out. And we can the advantage there is we can have a chat to the guys about what they're actually trying to solve. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And if it's not one that we're currently solving, then we can talk about how we might be able to solve it. But if we're not fit for purpose, then we just tell them that. Like, we're not trying to sell these guys stuff they don't want or can't use or doesn't fit their system.
Yes, well, that's good because that's reputational damage then if you just, doing that sort of thing. So, that's a good approach to take. LVS, people, that's what we're talking about, Livestock Visibility Solutions. The website is actually pretty good. I've got it up now, actually, having we look through it. And, it answers quite a lot of questions about what it actually does. And then I guess once you've decided that, maybe that's a bit of me, then you should, as I say, or as Richard has said, just get in contact with him. All the info's on that website, lvs.nz. Bloody good to talk with you. Good story, man. So I appreciate it, and we'll do it again soon. All the best.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks very much for having us on.
Well, as you are probably all well aware by now, Flex has partnered with Farmlands to bring custom-built solar systems to farmers and growers. Now, savings in power of up to 50% are possible. Who doesn't want that in this day and age with prices as horrendous as they are? The man behind Flex Energy is Andrew Pegler, who is the chief executive. He joins us now. It's lovely to have you on the show. How's it going?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having us again.
No worries at all. When did you start Flex Energy? And I guess, how long's it been in the pipeline for? Like, where'd the idea come from?
So about 15 months ago, I met Tanya Houghton, the CE, and Rob Hewitt, the chairman of Farmlands, and pitched a concept to them, which was about this kind of distributed generation or solar and batteries on farm, but not just normal solar and batteries on farm, solar and batteries on farm with a brain that controls how you use the energy. And that was, that was 15 months ago. We launched basically 12 months ago, 3 days ago. And it's been a real whirlwind year. We're about to go to field days again for our second time. And I think that I presented to the Farmlands board just recently and said, what I pitched to you was, I thought, pretty ambitious. What we've achieved is probably even more than I expected. So it's been an amazing 12 months. There are some pretty tired looking people in my office that didn't really understand what we were getting into. And now we're here. I don't think we'd change a thing.
So what is it about Flex, though, as a solar provider that's different compared to other solar providers? I mean, there's a few out there.
Yeah, there are, and the market's saturated, and it's the right thing, right? Solar and batteries are the right thing. I'm a massive advocate of batteries. This is a battery-led program, solar enabled. A lot of people will tell you that it's solar, but we're going to end up with too much solar. The thing that separates Flex is there's a couple of things here. We manage the energy consumption, not just on farm, but trading it back into the energy market. And we manage that every half an hour with some really smart software. We also do the end-to-end service. So we'll take care of the hardware. It's not necessarily the thing that we wanted to do when we started. If you'd spoken to me 15 months ago, I'd have told you we're energy as a service, it's software, but the market wasn't ready just for that. So we do the hardware, we do all of the design, we install it, we get it ready, and we set you up to trade energy. And we take care of the conversations with the retailer and the local lines company. And the last thing that's probably really unique, because this is a blackcurrant Farmlands joint venture in terms of Flex, we've built a business that'll be here for the next 30 years, and then the 30 after, and then the 30 after. And that's based on Farmlands already being 64 years old. There's not many providers that can stand up and say, if you have a problem in 10 years, I'm going to be standing next to you to help take care of it. And that is something that should not be dismissed as a light touch thing, because this is something Farmlands are really key on. Right? It's really important that the value stays on the farm. It sits with the farm inside the gate, but also this is a supported program for the lifetime of the product, and the panels all last 30 years.
Yeah, which is great. Now, tell me though, why Farmlands? Why did you sort of look at Farmlands and go, "Oh, yeah, that might be a good marriage, if you like"?
Yeah, I guess I've spent my life growing up in New Zealand, surfing, taking advantage of parts of the country that aren't accessible to everyone. And it'd be amazing what a dozen beers buy you for a farmer to get access to his farm, to drive across it to get to a beach that there's no road to. And we'd been working with schools, and we were working in some commercial property spaces within blackcurrant, but the rural market kind of gets a raw end of the deal. You poison our waterways, this, and they get the worst end of the deal from a cost point of view. And electricity has been my team's world for 30 years. And we looked at farmers and growers and thought, there's something unique in terms of they have space, right? And this isn't about using good usable land. This is about using the stuff that they mow because it's there. They're not farming on it. It's about using roof space, but they have more space than you and I have at home. So they can put systems that matter. And also, farmers and growers inside Farmlands, we've got 40,000 farmers and growers. She's a pretty big community. And if you have 100 of them, it makes a difference. If you have 1,000 of them, it becomes noticeable. If you have 10,000 of them using solar and batteries and some sort of smart software, that makes a fundamental difference to New Zealand Inc.'s power problem. And a farmer might go, well, do I really need to be part of that? They do if they want the value that gets returned for aggregated load, right? Aggregated solar and battery, because you're not talking a few cents a kilowatt, you're talking many, many cents a kilowatt. And that's when the true value of what Farmlands and Farmlands Flex are building will be realised.
So I've heard that the price paid by power companies for the surplus power is likely to decrease over time. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally correct. And that's why when we opened this conversation, I said that this is a battery-led, solar-enabled program. Because solar, and all you got to do is look at the Australians, right? They've had a solar program there for 10, 12 years. There are times during the middle of the day solar has no value. And so if that happens here, that's going to be a problem. The value still exists for that solar generation, but it exists when the market needs it. And when the market needs it, 6 to 9 in the morning, 5:30 to 8:30 in the evening. 9 out of 10 times there's not a lot of sun, so you need some way of storing it. And then that's when we come into our own, because that's what we do. We find the value spots within a trading day. And so that's why I'm a big believer. Don't be afraid of batteries. The technology is not new. It's not bleeding edge. The price points come down. We can monetize it. The return on investments sits somewhere between 12 and 16, 17% for our average customer. It's a pretty good return on investment if you look at every meter matters on farm. It's a really nice thing to have as a passive way to generate saving or generate income.
So yeah, the putting the power back into the grid, that's obviously a key part of the return on investment, clearly.
Absolutely, and that's the fundamental difference. we have a piece of software that turns your farm essentially into a trading desk. It's no different than if you're investing in a share market and you're using one of the tools that we've built a Sharesies for power. Is the simplest analogy I can make.
How busy have you been? I think you've mentioned a couple of numbers earlier, but yeah, paint the picture. Like the look on your face there and the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would have been lying if I'd told anyone that we would do what we've done. You know, it's been busier than I thought. We've probably had triple the amount of leads that we anticipated. We sort of thought that we might get sort of 250 to 300 solid leads in the year. We'd be knocking close to 900. We have installed or are installing over 110 jobs right now, and we're not a whole year through this financial year. That's just for this financial year. That doesn't include, the first couple of months when we started trading. We're learning tons as we go, but we've just managed to hit the market at the right time with a value prop that is absolutely needed. And you opened by saying that I think you used the term horrendous in terms of electricity pricing. Everyone talks about a 3% increase year on year. It was 12.5% as an average for our farmers and growers this year, right?
right.
And they can't charge 12.5% more for the product going out the gate because all those prices are set. So this is one small way that at the moment I talk about this often when I speak in public. Farmers and growers have been market takers. The market dictates to them, this is what you'll pay. I don't want to. You don't have to take my power, right? Well, that's not an option. It's the third most critical thing on a farm. We're turning them into market makers, where we've now got those retailers and those loans companies wanting to participate and take the load and take some of the generations. So this just led to us being super busy, and it's awesome. Like I look around my business and we've grown and we've had to. We don't still not keeping up, but people are tired, but for the right reason. And we've got field days next week, and I can't believe how excited they are about going back, because we're not a bunch of farmers and growers. We don't have the luxury of having a generation of younger farmers come into our business. We're learning that world, right? We're energy people. But it's been awesome. The lean and how welcoming people are, and then the community, we've really enjoyed it. And that probably also answers the question you asked me earlier. Why farmers? Because you can put back into a part of the industry or the country that at the moment kind of gets shunned, particularly in the energy market.
Yeah, that's very fair, to be honest. Okay, so what about the tricky things like farm layouts and stuff like that? So you got your house, and then you might have your shed, like over there, and you might have people are getting electrification's becoming more of a thing. So this is important infrastructure. What if you want it to be distributed in multiple areas? Is that easy enough to do, or what's the story there?
Yeah, there's some restrictions with that. Like people's favorite thing at the moment, there seems to be this new thing around power sharing. It's pretty hard to share power unless there's a line between A and B, right? Connectivity, it has physical connection. It's not a Wi-Fi that you can kind of send through the airways. There are a number of things that can be done, and exporting off a single system back into the grid makes just as much financial sense as power sharing within. If you're looking for an accounting process, that can be done, and we're working on that with a couple of retailers. We're piloting that at the moment. We've got 3 customers about to go through that. This is probably one of the things that sets us apart outside of the technology, and it's the design and the thinking and the problem solving that goes on, because a residential solar installer who puts stuff on a house will tell you that he can put stuff on a farm because it's the same. I won't use the word that I want to, but they're not telling you the truth. It is quite different. We've got 3 very high-end specialist designers, microgrid designers inside our business. Some of them come from the rural community, so they understand, on a dairy farm, the effluent pump, when that has to run versus when could it run, and remotely being able to move and turn that on and off to fit solar and battery. You're right. I guess right sizing is really hard because it is quite bespoke, but we are starting to get the data sets that go, this farm, even though it's a dairy farm, and this farm, even though it's a beef and lamb, they've actually got really similar energy profiles, because what have they got in common? They're pumping water. And so we kind of started to look at the world less about the farming type and more about ones and zeros and data around energy uses, consumption, time of day, seasonality, all of that stuff. And that's actually starting to get us to 3 or 4 kind of normalized sizes as a start point for designs. And it's based around making as much money as we can and resiliency, to be honest.
Yeah, well, because I was thinking about the electricity usage pattern. You spoke before about, the high times in the morning and in the evening, and that's probably, largely an urban thing, I suppose. But as you say, like, there's infrastructure on a farm that has to run at certain times. They don't really have the luxury of going, I
Yep.
might hold off until, cheaper power hour or whatever it might be, So, yeah, I guess that's something else to contend with.
It is, but it's, in all honesty, Dom, it's why we're here. Right? Someone asked, is like, what do you do? Like, asked me this question in public at Beef and Lamb, and I was like, well, I am the mouthpiece. I get to do stuff like this, which is cool. I get to sit and talk. But I'm also, one of my core jobs is to find the grey and find how you monetize what you would consider a problem. I think about it as an opportunity, and we have a little market development team here where that's all we do. We spend our time looking at how broken things are within the energy market and time of use. And ironically, a lot of the farming and growing time of use demands, when they're high, it's low in the residential space and vice versa. So it is almost the perfect storm. But that's in essence, along with the technology, why this is special and this works, because we're building up that experience and we're building up that knowledge base to kind of make sure that what we're doing is the right thing for the farmer and grower.
Yeah, and the farmer and grower would, by all accounts, tend to agree. It's almost become a bit of a runaway train, this electrification sort of system, I guess, that we're sort of going down now. You'll be aware of Mike Casey, of course, and what he's doing in Cromwell and all that sort of thing. I mean, do you see the uptake becoming even greater and to the point where it's just ubiquitous?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Mike was our very first customer at Blackcurrant. We've been
I'm not
working with Mike
surprised.
for 4.5, 5 years, right? We're peas in a pod, people will tell you. He's the end game. And whether or not it's because it's the right thing to do for the country and the world and the planet, or it's the right thing to do for you as a financial decision, as the technology becomes better in the electrification space, and we get tractors and we get machinery and we get, people are going to want to do it because they're going to save. I think Mike was telling me the other day, he changed one of the devices from diesel to electric, and a 30% saving straight off the bat. And as I said, I didn't realize it was quite that high. So you're right, the electrification journey is going to become stronger and stronger, and the requirement for more energy is going to become higher and higher. So the more self-sufficient they are, it is, I use the term the perfect storm. Ubiquitous is absolutely the right term. And New Zealand as a whole cannot keep up with demand and supply right now. Right, we're just using more electricity than ever. We're burning more coal than we've ever had. Building big centralized generation is super important, but it's not going to be able to keep up with what we need. So what we're doing, I believe, is firmly part of the solution. I guess the other thing, just to also make sure people are aware of, we're not a natural competitor to another solar and battery company. In fact, if someone else wants to go and install this, we can help monetize it with a GetFlex product later. Right. And so it's funny, I quite often end up having conversations with people where they think we're a competitor, and I'm like, no, I just want to work with you. Like, man, you do you. And if you want to help monetize your customers, we can white label it, we can help. So we generally are really interested in getting as many solar and battery or microgrid sites into some form of management and control. And that really does then add that additional value back into the rural community.
And you power guys are very passionate about what you do, I have to say. I've noticed.
It's funny, people that know me will say they probably don't think that, most of them wouldn't even know that I'm a bit of an energy nerd, but We fundamentally here in this organisation at Farmlands Flex, we do care.
Yeah.
That's
Fair
probably
enough.
the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. How do people find out more about all of this stuff? You got good info out there, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, listen, flexenergy.co.nz. There's registration and information all over the place. LinkedIn, Facebook. Go to farmlands.co.nz. Speak to your Farmlands rep. Send a pigeon. However you need to get hold of us. We're at Field Days next week. We're in the Farmlands Pavilion. There will be a small army of Farmlands Flex people there. Yeah, just any of those things will work.
Andrew, pleasure talking to you, and we will see you next week in Hamilton.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Dom.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, really appreciate it. Don't forget, of course, to like, comment, and subscribe. And we have new episodes dropping every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. See you next time.